y'all, and welcome back to Katie on the Flip Side. Today I'm going to talk about some things that I haven't really talked about on here. If you're completely unfamiliar with what's been going on, the Cliff Notes version is that back in January, Cullen admitted to you guys, to the world, that he was struggling with addiction, and he was ready to admit that that was a problem and get help and move on in his life. For me, as the spouse of someone with a problem with addiction, it has been an interesting journey. I think that's a side of things that a lot of times people don't think about. And as I was going through my side of his struggle with addiction over the previous year or two before that, it was a very, very hard time for me personally. And I feel like there are a lot of resources actually out there for spouses or significant others or parents of people with addictions, but it's not something that I knew was an option. I know there are a lot of you guys that watch my videos, that are subscribed to my channel, that do have a similar situation to what I was going through, and you've said that these things are encouraging to you. As the spouse of somebody who is dealing with some type of addiction or other issue that has caused turmoil in the relationship, I think it's easy to think that you're crazy, that it's all your fault, that you shouldn't feel the way you do, that it wasn't really a big deal and it's really fine. Let's just put all that behind us for right now. I'm going to talk about my feelings, how I've processed them. So let me just talk a little bit about how PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, can actually come from living through a traumatic event or traumatic life, period. One thing I have heard is that a lot of times with PTSD, we think about war veterans, people who have been to war and seen these horrible, terrible things. And it really hit me hard when somebody said, but for a lot of people, there's war going on in their homes. And that can be very traumatic as well. So I just wanted to kind of speak to some of those things that are happening with me, some of the experiences I've had, not only just to talk about it, because it's been super helpful for me to be able to talk about it and work through this on my channel, but also because hearing other people talk about their experiences was one of the things that helped me the most when I was in it. I'm still in it. I mean, it's a recovery process, but I'm very much still hyper aware, hyper vigilant, worried that the other shoe is gonna drop at any minute, and I'm working on letting some of that go. But as it is with one of the things I've talked to Cullen about is I just need you to hear me. I need you to believe me. I need you to believe that I'm saying these things because they're actually my feelings. I'm not saying them to make you feel guilty. I'm not saying them to accuse you of anything. I'm not saying them to like point a finger. I'm literally just, they're actually my feelings. I'm not making things up. I'm not like exaggerating things. I'm being completely honest and just need to be heard. So one thing that I didn't understand until I'd been through a situation like this is when people would say something was a trigger. Like, you know, somebody's telling a story and they'll say, trigger warning, this could trigger you. And I was like, I don't really get that. I don't know what that means because it's not something that I'd had an experience with. So just to be upfront, as I'm talking about some of this, if this is something you have been through, this might trigger you and some of your emotions and some of your feelings. So just a little warning. I guess I kind of thought of triggers as being some major thing, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit here and talk about drugs. I'm gonna sit here and do drugs in front of you. I'm gonna bring like drug paraphernalia in the house. It's so much more deep than that, and it's also so much more simple than that. They're the simplest things when you have gone through a type of experience, especially a long-term experience of living with something that you feel like you don't have any control over, but that is not working out for you, that's not healthy, that's not enhancing your relationship, something that can be scary or something that can cause stress and turmoil within your household. The other night I was sitting at the island working on something and we were kind of closing things up, getting ready to go to bed, and Cullen said, okay, I'm gonna go out and put the top on the hot tub. So he walks outside and I just didn't even think about it, and I'm doing my thing, and then I hear a clicking sound, and I didn't consciously think anything, but inside my body suddenly got tense. I had this like freeze feeling, and this feeling like in the pit of my stomach, in my chest, of just like, oh my gosh, what was that? And it wasn't a feeling that I was gonna be attacked. It was a feeling that sounded a lot like a lighter being lit, like a click, like that. And my subconscious brain went to, oh my gosh, what's he doing out there? Why did he go out there? And he's going out there to like smoke pot or do something that he knows isn't something that I agree with, something he said he's not gonna do. My brain starts going through all these things. My body feels these emotions. Honestly, even as I'm talking about this, I don't know, maybe you can even tell by looking at me, I'm just like getting tense like this. It's making me feel like this. And then my logical brain was like, hang on, what's actually happening? And then I said, oh yeah, he's putting the hot tub cover on and you have to click the little, it's like a buckle that goes together to close it all the way around. And I literally kind of feel like I can't breathe right now talking about this because it was that type of physical reaction. It's something that small that can cause that type of physical reaction in you. Is my life being threatened if he were to be doing that outside? No, it was not threatening my life. But after having been through that and seen the effects of what happens when I find something out that had happened in the past, or when he started using drugs again after saying he wasn't going to, my brain goes to, oh my gosh, he's like slipping and he's doing this and he thinks I don't know, and now I'm gonna have to confront him, and when I confront him, he's going to like get angry and he's gonna tell me that's not what he was doing and he's gonna lie, and then I'm gonna be in a position where I feel uncomfortable, and you kind of flash back through all the times that it's happened in the past, which is a very scary thing to feel internally because there were some really, really traumatic fights, moments, situations between us. And so I had to give myself, my brain, my body, everything a moment just to like reset. So like I said, I was working on something that took me a minute to get back to like, okay, what was I just doing? Because I don't even remember, and now I'm in this whole other state of mind. And this is something that previously I wouldn't have mentioned to Cullen, and I wouldn't have said that because in the past, before we have gotten to a point where we can discuss all this, if I had mentioned that to him, rightfully so, he would have taken it personally and been like, why would you think I was doing that? I'm in this recovery process. I've told you I'm not doing that anymore. He would have gotten defensive and probably felt a little offended and angry that that's what I thought he was doing, because he is doing better and he is doing well. And so it would have caused some more problems. But because we've been able to discuss things, I was able to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, this just happened. I need you to understand that it's little things like this that can happen in a day. Had I not said anything and I'm kind of already in this like state like this, all of a sudden he wouldn't have known and been like, what in the heck is going on? Like, why are you being so like standoffish to me when there's nothing to actually be mad about? But it's hard to trick your brain and tell yourself that there's not after having experienced that so many times, or the many times that he was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not smoking anything anymore. And then come to find out a couple months later, a month later, a week later, actually he still was, and he was hiding it from me, and I was the one that had to confront him. I was the one that had to like pull it out of him. There was actually still something going on. So there's just all of that that goes with this one tiny sound outside that was completely harmless and completely innocent. Another thing that can happen for me, and I know for other people when I'm triggered, is this feeling of dissociation, which is like you kind of go into your mind and are reliving the actual event or the actual experience. And for me, I kind of check out of reality and don't mean to. It's not intentional and I hate it. It's something that happened while we were in the height of all the stress and the trauma, but it's also something that happens as a response now to it re-experiencing some of those feelings or those emotions or like flashbacks to the event. So I can remember being in a state of having just found out about something that he had lied to me about, or that he had done that he said he hadn't done, and being kind of made to be the bad guy, and then finding out actually I was right, he was lying to me even though he said he wasn't. And then we would go our different ways, whether it be in the house or him leaving the house, and then I would be taking care of the kids. And aside from just being like frustrated and stressed, and you know, you have like a bad experience with somebody and you're just stressed, so you're stressed out of everybody. It's almost like physically being there, but not mentally being there. And I remember like trying to, you know, get dinner ready and talk to the kids and sit at the table with the kids and have a coherent conversation, and like not really hearing anything that they were saying, and feeling like I was just like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't notice that I'm like totally not involved in their emotions right now, which was really hard because that's not something that I enjoy. And it's something that I did not realize would happen in situations where everything was fine. in the future once we had kind of gotten past it. It was something that I had come to expect when we would have a big fight or something would come out or something would be stressful in our relationship. But recently, I was actually listening to the podcast and they were talking about addiction. They had a guest on talking about that person's addiction and just talking about the drug use and the trauma that it caused and the strained relationships that it caused and all that stuff. And I was listening to it and it just put me in a state of that like dissociative feeling. Like I came in the door and paused it and then I told Helen, I was like, oh, this is hard for me to listen to. Like I recognized that it was hard. I said, I'm just gonna have to like get in a different mental place right now. And then for the next, it took me like a good, I don't know, 30 minutes or so to feel like I was back with the world. Like I came in to start getting dinner ready for the kids and I was just like staring in the fridge, like what am I doing? Like what is going on right now? And we had chicken nuggets or whatever easy dinner it was. So then they both wanted some ranch dip. I grabbed the bottle of ranch to squirt it on each of their plates and I squirted on one side of Gaines's plate and then on the other side of her plate. And then I walked away and she was like, Mommy, why did you give me 2 things of ranch and you didn't give Brooks any? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like I wasn't there. I was going through motions, but mentally like disappeared and numb. And it wasn't even like I was rethinking things. It wasn't even like anything was going through my brain. Nothing was going through my brain. And that is what just a small thing like listening to that, taking me back to some of my feelings can cause. At the time of going through the stress and the trauma in our lives, I remember feeling crazy when this would happen. I remember being like, this is awful. Like, why can't I snap out of it? Why can't I get it together? I'm being too sensitive. I'm over processing this and just feeling like it was my fault. Hearing other people talk about how this happened to them, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that does happen to me. It's okay. Like it's not a good thing, obviously, but it's something that happens. And just hearing that and knowing that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't the only one that felt that way was weirdly comforting and made me feel like, okay, somebody else is talking about this. Somebody else knows how to get through this. There is hope. I'm gonna get through it. And that's one of the main reasons that I wanted to share this stuff. And so for you guys who might be experiencing this, you can see that you're not alone. There are times when also a trigger can cause like an actual flashback type experience or just a mental re-experiencing, replaying of an event. Sometimes it's something that I can't even put my finger on, like what made me start all of a sudden thinking about this? It could be walking through a room and seeing a specific chair that we were sitting in when we had a conversation, or seeing a specific like item, a specific door, whatever it may be that was around during that experience that maybe what I was staring at as I was talking to him about something, or I don't know. There's just like different little things that sometimes I don't even realize. And I will be in the middle of doing something important or in the middle of a conversation with somebody else, and my mind will immediately start replaying the actual negative event that I experienced in my head. I will just totally space out and the event will replay in my head and there will be pieces of it. And then I will start feeling the emotions from that and I'll have to snap myself out of it, which is difficult because it often happens at times when it's not convenient, when I don't want to think about the event, when maybe we're having a perfectly good day. We could be having like a great date and it could be in the way that Cullen looks at me. It could be in the way he like reaches for something in his pocket. I can't say that there haven't been times when I've seen him like walk into a room or like reach down to pick something up and have his hand kind of just like this, like, you know, you hold your hand and I'm like, what's in his hand? What's he, you know, like what's he hiding? When it's a perfectly fine moment and he's not actually doing anything, he just is like standing like this and then there's nothing there. In the past, those situations would come up and if I mentioned it, he would get defensive and he might even say, why do you always have to know everything? Like, why are you so on top of me and needing to know like what's in my hand, what's going on? And I think hopefully now he understands a little bit more that it's not me being controlling or me like having to know everything as much as it's that like that triggered a memory for me that made me think of a time when things were different or when something else was being hidden from me. And so I think it's important to understand those things, and as a couple understanding each other's point of views and realizing that like I'm not trying to be overly crazy, but there's things that literally my mind goes to places and I can't help it. I try my best not to mention every single thing that happens that causes these emotions and these feelings in me, because that would just be really stressful for him and is a little bit unnecessary. But in times when I feel like it might help him understand why I'm feeling the way I am, or why I'm acting the way I am, why I'm detached in a way that I am, I do try to tell him those things and explain it in a way that makes it seem not accusatory or blaming or diminishing or whatever, but in a way that's like, hey, I just need you to hear me. I just need you to know this is what I'm feeling right now. And honestly, that has helped me so much, being able to tell him. There's been so many things that I have been holding in my heart or in my head that I haven't talked to him about, or I haven't even talked to you guys about, not because, I guess some of it I was like afraid to talk about or felt like I would be judged for, but some of it is just things that I didn't even realize were there, things I didn't realize weren't normal. And honestly, us going to therapy and talking to somebody about some of these things has been incredibly helpful in having a third-party perspective of going, yeah, that's not something that your average person experiences. That's not something that just somebody who hasn't been through this situation would feel or think or do. And it makes me go, okay, so that means this is a result of the situation. It's something I can work through. It's something I need to work through. It's not just something that I need to feel like I'm a terrible person for thinking this. I'm a terrible person for questioning, like if he's holding his hand like this after he's like reached in his pocket or walked out of the room or whatever else, that I'm not terrible and like weird for feeling like something's gonna happen. It's because of a previous experience where that happened and there was something in his hand that he lied to me about and told me right there in front of my face, there's nothing in my hand. I swear to you, there's nothing in my hand. And I was like, I know there's something in your hand. What are you holding? And him actually just kind of trying to like hide it down in a chair, and then me finding it and being like, I told you there was something in your hand. That brings me to a whole nother topic that I'm not even gonna get into today because this has been long enough. But that's the stuff that makes you feel crazy. That's the stuff that as a spouse of somebody dealing with addiction or any type of similar situation makes you literally question your own sanity. And honestly, I think it's one of the hardest parts, because you start not only questioning your sanity, but you start questioning your emotions, you start questioning a lot of things about yourself and your life and your existence. So maybe I'll talk about that next time if this is a topic that is interesting to you guys, or if you guys enjoyed hearing this. Honestly, I'm probably gonna share it anyway, because if it helps one person, or if one person can resonate with this, I'll feel like I've done my job. I'm super glad to have this platform to be able to talk about this stuff, not only for my own good, but to be able to help anybody else that finds yourself in this situation. If any of y'all have been through any of this, have experiences like that, have things that you feel like you want to get out there, want to put out, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Let the comments be your sounding board where you can discuss things and where we can all support others. If you see other people commenting with similar things, please feel free to give them a, hey, I feel ya. I don't want this to be a place where anybody is judged or put down for their feelings or told they shouldn't feel a certain way or that they're overreacting. If I see any comments like that, I will block people and I will delete comments, because anybody who's going through trauma, recovering from trauma, it's not a time when you need anything else negative in your life. So let's lift each other up and be incredibly supportive. I know y'all usually are. Just a little handful of people over here that like to be angry and rude. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you being here for me through all this. And I will see you on Monday morning for a live stream. I'm doing Monday morning live streams now and I'm really enjoying it. At least for right now, that's the plan. So see you on Monday morning. Thanks, guys.